All right, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining for last session of this first cycle of Brownback sessions today. Um, Last session, we had a very informative session on plan development, general zones, general purposes, and review processes. Today, we're gonna focus on development standards and neighborhood compatibility standards. Um, as always, these sessions are recorded and they're gonna be, the link to the recording will be sent to you after we finish. We have two announcements to make today. On June 23, we're gonna host an open house here at Largo Beach Quarters. This is for promote, the new division, intake and regulatory review division, as well as on our new digital platform, DARTS, for application tracking. It will be on July 23 from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. You are welcome to attend. And we're gonna host the second cycle of Brownback sessions. It will start in September. We will continue the same schedule every Tuesday of the month at noon, both in person and online. Stay tuned. We're gonna announce the full list of topics very soon. With no further ado, I'm gonna pass the mic to Fortune Garland, supervisor of the urban design section.
Thank you, Natalia. Hi, good afternoon. My name is John Garland, supervisor in urban design section. So today's session is development standard and neighborhood compatibility. As Natalia said, next please. As Natalia said, today is the last of this batch. Next batch is going to be announced soon. Next. I'm going to just wait a little bit until this slide is in sync. And show agenda is the next slide. Thank you. So welcome. Thank you so much for walking in while I'm just talking. And my name is John Garland, Urban Design Section Supervisor. I've been privileged to work in various different sections and various different jurisdictions, such as Fairfax and Town of Vienna, Montgomery County, and now in Prince George County. The Prince George County's zoning ordinance is very unique, and recently we have been definitely much more focusing on the form-based code. So today, while we're expanding about the development review standard, you can see all the great form-based code regulations, how it can enhance the urban design aspect and walkability and high-quality lifestyles. So today's session has a little bit of runover from last May 13th session. So that will be the first batch as a development standards in general. And then the second batch would be mainly the compatibility standard, which will be introduced by Joe Costa, who is the urban planner for and urban design section. And I will be closing with a Q&A afterwards. And so I'm going to start with the icebreaker. And there are a few questions. So please take it as the next page. Okay, thank you. So first question. What is the current required size for a standard 90-degree parking space? This is not that easy question, honestly. And as a person who submitted the application, might have a little bit more knowledge, but maybe not. Anyone has any idea? Feel free to raise a hand. Otherwise, I'm happy to provide an answer.
You've got a C in the chat.
Ooh, okay. Somebody who's watching has a great knowledge. Bingo. So the answer is C, 9 by 18. So the first A is 9.5 by 19, which was the standard of the prior zoning ordinance, zoning code section. And the current code section is 9 by 18, which is slightly smaller. And D is 8 by 16. This is the compact space size. And B, 10 by 20, can design it that way as long as it's meeting the minimum requirement. Okay, the second icebreaker question, next. All right, which of these are non-residential uses? Check all that apply. These icebreaker is not actually that easy, so I'm gonna warn you, but do your best and see what you can answer. Any takers? All right, if not, I can provide the answer. The answer is all except live work dwelling. So basically, the way you can think about is live work dwelling is basically live as a residential, as a primary, and work as accessory. So still the focus is live, so therefore it is residential, but everything else as daycare for children, hotel, nursing or care home, cemetery, those are all non-residential uses. The purpose of this question was actually trying to say that before you actually apply, when you're writing the application, make sure your use definition is correctly designated. So check the definition of the zoning ordinance and, find whether what you're proposing is the correct designation, because that's the starting point to even understand what use you're proposing and therefore what use categories you are going to be looking into to apply all the ordinance itself. Okay, so next. The next question is, if development proposal does not meet one of the applicable development standard, what application is necessary? This is also a kind of 201 question, I say, any takers? Right. Audience is whispering something, but I will reveal the answer. I would say, easy exclusion, right? The zoning ordinance interpretation is, official interpretation is nothing to do with the deviating any kind of regulation, so it's easy exclusion. And special exception is also easy exclusion because it's about allowing certain use while it's meeting certain standards, so that's easy exclusion. But between A, B, and D, A is the right answer. That is under section 27-3614, major or minor or major departure is under part 6. So that is the standard. That is the application you're going to be choosing into. The B, alternative compliance, is particularly designated for the landscape manual. And variance is not part 6 either. So the correct answer is A. It's a minor or a major. Okay, so I'm going to get into the main portion of today's presentation. So this part is comprised that more so to explain about the purpose and intent. I always think that if somebody's giving you, gazillion different code sections and trying to memorize it, it's much harder. So my intent is giving you the core and major principle. What is the driving factor of these regulations? So hopefully it's helpful for you to kind of comprehend the purpose behind it. So it's easier when you're reading each code sections, much easier to comprehend and understand. Next. Okay. Better street and sidewalks. These are generally encouraged and but required in transit-oriented zones and high-density area. And sidewalks are required on both sides of most streets to enhance walkability and encourage people to walk instead of driving. And also the wide sidewalk, at least 10-foot wide sidewalks are encouraged in town centers. Wider sidewalks accommodates various activities, such as you can see in the exhibits with the cafe zones and landscape panels with the trees. all those can be accommodated. So wider sidewalks are highly encouraged. And that will allow, basically without interfering with pedestrian navigation. And planting strips and street trees should be provided between the sidewalk and the road. These days, we were just talking actually among the staff that walking on the street in the 90 degrees outside is really hard. Even as a short distance, with the climate change, outside is very hot. So providing the trees to cooler the temperature, it will be very much helpful. And that will make more walkable and comfortable and attractive environment. So street trees are required. And study shows also that the tree line streets increase the property values. So when there's a particularly for residential street trees should be provided. Next. All right. Next is the connected communities. So streets should be connected to neighborhood area, avoiding dead end. Sometimes we see that cul-de-sac is provided because of environmental features and some other areas. But even so, then pathway, pedestrians pathway, and is to connect the communities, even as a pedestrian level, that is highly encouraged. And also development should include walkways and bike paths. That will allow people to easily navigate without using vehicle. And as you can see in the picture, that will allow families to be able to stroll after dinner, in the evenings or afternoons or weekends, bringing the community outside and be able to interact more and be able to be connected. So it is very important. So ensure easy access to the nearby parks, trails, and transit. Those are all amazing amenities that residents need to be able to utilize, and to do so, connecting communities with the street, with a bike path, and those kind of things would be necessary. Next. Next topic is about parking and pedestrian safety. New or additional off-street to surface parking should be located in the rear or the side of the principal buildings, or in the parking structure. In this economy, parking structure is a higher cost, so it's harder. But when you are designing the surface parking lot, it should be located in the rear of the building or the side of the building, because when the parking is located in front of the building, that discourages pedestrian activities, walkabilities, so it should be more hidden behind the building or side of the building. And when the surface parking lot with more than 100 spaces should be divided into smaller module, visually separated by building or landscape swale. So the people who is walking in the parking lot is not perceiving as a sea of parking around, surrounding their environment. It should be more segmented as smaller modules. In parking lot, so the pedestrian walkway should be also provided in a large parking area. For example, when my in-law was shopping with me, I see that she was actually taking car from one place to the other. It is the same shopping center. So I asked her, why are you walking? Why are you not walking, from one place to the other? And she said she doesn't feel safe because there's no pedestrian walkway or sidewalk. So be able to provide those clearly delineated walkway is crucial. So that will allow and encourage for people to walk between the shopping centers. And that will make it safer environment. So our code requires clearly identify the pedestrian route between parking areas and building entrance to minimize interference between the pedestrian and traffic. As I said, they'll make it safer and easier walk to store or offices or any other destinations for them. Next. Next topic is about attractive building design. Hopefully this picture makes you a great smile. As you can see, literally the building is facing onto the street. And it is very essential. Building, if it's not facing the street, but facing rather parking area, parking lot behind, it actually diminishes more of walkability and encourages more people to use their vehicle. So to promote a stronger sense of the place with vibrant commercial and mixed-use development, having the building facing to the street and also having a consistent setback, that'll be very much helpful. Instead of having a drastically different setbacks, some buildings are right onto the street, some buildings are much further back. Instead of like jagged setback environment like that, if there's a consistent setback, that will attract walkabilities and that will create a street edge. And that becomes a pedestrian friendly environment. And that is focusing on also the human scale design and site features to avoid large or bulky buildings with new architectural, with a few architectural detail. If some of the building is having a blank wall or not having a many architectural detail, it loses the interest for the pedestrian to be able to create and enhance high quality architecture is important. And creating landmark and gathering places. The new ordinance includes open space set aside for the use and enjoyment of developments, residents, employees, or users. These serve multiple purposes, including preserving natural, historical, and archaeological resources, ensuring access to open areas and reducing the heat island effect, providing civic spaces, enhancing stormwater management, and offering public health benefits. Next. All right. So next is about public space and green areas. Open space is required in a new development. Open space set aside requirement, which is rather new requirement for this current ordinance that do not replace other requirements such as mandatory parkland dedication or stormwater management, but still it can be counted toward them. The place to walk or sit and enjoy the outdoors are critical for building a community and designed to enhance the quality of life and provide space for socializing and enjoyment. Basically, we are providing the, some small environment, for people to come out, because once people come out and they, meet each other, that will bring community together and allow them to socialize. And also some of the open space could be green buffers around the parking lots, which could enhance the appearance of the surface parking facilities and also delineate the vehicular and pedestrian circulation. And that'll make it easier to walk and navigate in between. Next. Okay, so next topic is about safer, greener, better places. Better lighting, landscape, and environmental protections are very much essential. Ensure that the excessive light spillage and glare are not directed at adjacent land or neighboring area and more motorists. Because if there's excessive glare or the light spillage, that creates a light pollution. So that shouldn't be happening. All private street lighting should be also full cut-off fixtures, not to have a light spillage. Green building practices are encouraged to ensure development include green features that conserve resources, support a healthy lifestyle, reduce greenhouse gas emission, and ensure a high quality of life for residents. Next slide, please. All right, so overall, how did these affect you? So as I was saying that once you provide the high quality urban design environment with a better connected to streets and better and safer environment, more people will be walking outside and enjoying the environment. And that will contribute to the more beautiful neighborhood and better and safe, accessible environment, which people will be walking to the shops or parks or transit facilities. And then that will improve the safety and environmental quality. So I'm gonna be wrapping up for this portion. And if you can click the next slide. So the second portion will be about neighborhood compatibility standard, which is the kind of subsection of the part 6. So this will be introduced by Jill Kosep, who is the planning board. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. Again, just to introduce myself again, I'm Jill Kozak, a planner for in our design section. And as Sojourn stated, I am going to present a deeper dive into the neighborhood compatibility standards, which is one of the new sections of the development standards in the current zoning ordinance. And we wanted to highlight those. The purpose of these design standards is to provide a transition and ensure compatibility between new proposed development and existing neighborhoods. So with that, we'll get into it. Next slide, please. So where do neighborhood compatibility standards apply? Generally, they apply to any new proposed or expansions of townhomes, multifamily, non-residential, and mixed-use developments that are adjacent or across the street or alley from single-family detached, two-family, or townhouse dwellings, or vacant lands in the single-family residential zones, which I'm going to be referring to these as the neighborhood from now on. So again, the existing single-family detached, two-family townhouse dwellings or vacant single-family residential zone is considered the neighborhood referenced in the neighborhood compatibility standards. Next slide, please. The first part of the standards involve the proposed buildings. Building setbacks must be consistent with others on the block face. And there are maximum building heights within 200 feet of the neighborhood. Building design standards require roofs and other architectural features, exterior colors that are similar to the neighborhood. Additionally, long commercial building facades must be broken up into discrete storefronts as seen in the image in the lower right here. Next slide. Standards also are included requiring a minimum percentage of transparency, meaning the window and door openings on a building elevation that are facing the neighborhood as laid out in the chart on the lower part of this image. Exterior materials must be similar to the neighborhood with limits on vinyl siding and prohibition on materials like plywood, concrete block, and corrugated metal. The top image is an example showing a neighborhood facing facade of a consolidated storage facility that was designed in conformance with the neighborhood compatibility standards. And again, show you the similar sorts of roof types, the transparency with the windows on this elevation, all that are required by the neighborhood compatibility standards. Next slide, please. Next, we have parking standards. There's maximum limit on the total amount of parking on sites within 200 feet of neighborhoods to limit the excessive use of land and allow for larger buffers. Loading and service areas and drive-through windows must be located away from and screened from the neighborhood. Check the character and establish more pedestrian-oriented areas, unlike the image here on the lower left, where the loading and trash areas are not screened from the nearby residential. Next slide, please. There are also standards relative to lighting and signage, with limits on the maximum lighting height and levels within 100 feet of the neighborhood, so as to help protect it from a potentially adverse impacts. Similar restrictions are put on proposed signage locations and sign areas. And signs must be set back a minimum of 50 feet from lot lines shared with the neighborhood. And sign areas reduced when they're within 100 feet, again, to avoid adverse impacts on the neighborhood. Next slide, please. There are standards relative to other site features, such as the new required open space set aside areas should be located between the proposed development and the existing neighborhood to provide an effective transition, as seen in the image on the lower left here. Additionally, operational standards limit hours for trash collection, amplified music, and outdoor dining within 200 feet of the neighborhood, so as to limit adverse impacts. As future proposed developments are constructed in conformance with these neighborhood compatibility standards, it will ensure stronger protections and compatibility with the existing neighborhoods in the county. And next slide, please. With that, I will hand it back to Ho-Chun.
All right, thank you so much, Jill. That was very informative. So hopefully you enjoyed today's presentation. And this development standard has a lot deeper content in the zoning ordinance. So if you're interested and want to learn more about it, please use our website, which is a lot fuller content, such as Google Researches, which is our master plan of transportation, GIS, that you can check your sites with a lot more in-depth geographic information. And also our general plan, and also recently adopted design guidelines for parks. So there are a lot of good information in our website. So please utilize that. Next. All right, so this is kind of a few questions. I just put it out there. But if you have any questions, a particular experience you want to share it, please raise hand or put it in a side chat so you ask any questions.
Yeah, regarding the compatibility, neighborhood compatibility and the building setbacks, the prior design was the parking in the front. And now, of course, we try to push it towards the put the parking in the front. Now we're trying to push the buildings in the front. So how, if you have an adjacent property where you're trying to meet that standard, how does that work?
Yeah, so that's actually an excellent question. So in the current ordinance, when you are trying to establish setback, you have to measure the block and count where other setbacks are, and have to put average, from there, so that way you can establish the setbacks much toward the close to the street. So that way, the intention is moving buildings close to the street one by one and be able to establish consistent setbacks in it. So that is the intent of our zoning ordinance.
Thank you.
If there's anything else, if anyone else want to add it, please feel free to do so.
Did Prince George's County consider requirements for underground and utility lines for improving aesthetics and also to allow growth of larger shade producing trees?
I'm sorry, is that a question or is it a statement?
It's question. Did the county consider that?
I'm sure, we're we have awesome resource as James Hunt, our deputy director.
Thank you. And my apologies for my tardiness, and we had another event kind of going on around the same time. Like this up here. But, when it comes to a lot of these different things, that, underground utilities, of course, is something that everyone's kind of running into, and it makes more sense to kind of go that way. However, what's going on right now from our standpoint, we kind of coordinate on our end with all of the local utilities. I know, for example, Smetco has been doing a great job of trying to make sure the underground utilities with all the new developments that are going on. We have to coordinate with the utility to actually make that happen, because it's going to be more kind of under their role where they want their lines to go. As a part of the subdivision process, I want to make it clear there, that's kind of where we're looking at those utilities. And so there's a public utility easement that's required along public roadways of about 10 feet that has to be required. And so we look at ensuring from this end, from a development standpoint, that easement is provided as required. When it comes to underground, we try to work very closely with them to ensure that happens. Can't guarantee it always does, but we work very closely with them to hopefully make that happen at some point, because we realize that will hopefully cut down with the outages that take place, depending on, the weather and things like that. So we realize that, but from a local government standpoint, that's our role and responsibility with that, as far as to make sure that area is provided as a part of the subdivision process. And then kind of coordinating with the different utilities that, with them to make sure that happens as far as their policy that they have.
Thank you, James. Any other question?
Is all of the information that you shared today also relevant for churches as well? Is this
Absolutely, yeah.
symbol for churches? Okay. And then you made a comment earlier, I wanted to make sure I understood it. When you, I forget who was talking, I think it was you, but someone was talking about attractive building design. And when it came to create landmarks and gathering places, you associated that with public health. Can I get some more context? I was trying to understand the relationship with public health.
Yeah, thank you so much for saying that. Actually, I can also use my recent trip to Asia. And when there is outdoor space, such as plaza or little park being provided, a lot more people will come out to utilize the facilities. And therefore, once they're out, the community will be interacting more together. And in the end, they'll be, helping for building the community. At the same time, when people are coming out to the, outdoor environment, it enhances, it encourages doing the physical activities, the community walking, moving around. All those are adding for the public health. And, as my experience, while I was walking a lot more and, enjoying all the amenities, through my trips, I lost weight without doing any extra, workout. And that's the part of lifestyle we would like to encourage. Naturally, by coming out and enjoying the great urban design, such as a high quality open space, high quality plaza, all those things will encourage to have a great lifestyle, which contribute to healthier lifestyle, not just physically, but also mentally as well.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Otherwise, I'm going to conclude. All right, I'm going to give the microphone to our Deputy Director, James Hunt, speaks close.
Thank you, host. Thank you everyone for coming out today. So I know I came here towards the end, but I had a few questions myself, just to get some insight to you. As you see on the screen, the question, I'm sorry, can you go back that once? Go back. And there's that one question at the bottom. We are posing that question as much as possible to all the, a lot of our different presentations that we have, coordination with the development community, with the public. We are very serious in trying to figure out what are your ideas to streamline the process that we have, which we realize that in some aspects, it could be very daunting. So we're coming up with innovative ways and wanting to ensure that we coordinate with everybody to get ideas on what that looks like. Some ideas that, kind of that we have hanging out there right now is trying to see if we can kind of, have a parallel process when it comes to both detailed site plans as well as preliminary plans. Can we do those around the same time? What does that look like? So just want to kind of get some ideas from you all. Is there some type of, when you're talking about threshold requirements for detailed site plans, to prevent people or developments from having to go down that road, which would actually help to kind of reduce timelines to get to construction. So what does that look like? So we're trying to get an idea from anyone what that looks like. We're very serious about this because, you know, as you all know, we have a new county executive and she's very serious about finding ways to streamline. And I think that definitely with the process in place or the idea in place that would allow a parallel process between the preliminary plan and detailed site plan would help out tremendously. But I need to kind of talk to you all to see what other ideas that are out there. So, you know, I know you all are experienced with the process. Many of you have gone through it. You've had your issues as well. So I really want to kind of soak in what ideas that you have as a part of your experience that you're saying, hey, that took too long to get through. So, and I know we're talking about the development standards today, but that all is incorporated as a part of that detailed site plan process. Is there a way that we could help to reduce timeframes some form or fashion, or to help streamline that? And here's the thing, if we can, like I said, parallel process that are great, we can do that. But let's see what that looks like. I want to get your insight in what that looks like, because it's not just left up to us to make, you know, suggestions about the process. We're looking to you all as well, because it's not the planning department's community, it's Prince George's County, okay? So I want to kind of hear back from you all, if you all had anything online, if you had anything, any of the folks here in the room today, just anyone, if you have anything, kind of go ahead and, you know, put in the chat, raise your hand, whatever you want to do. I want to kind of talk about that to see what that looks like. Does anybody have anything they want to mention or bring up as far as their experience? Please don't be shy. Okay. Yes, ma'am, we got a person in the back here. We got a mic coming for you because I want to make sure the folks who are online can hear you. There we go.
Hello?
Yeah.
Hi, my name is Iman. I was late to the session, so I don't know all that was discussed, but, would public transportation be, part of the planning committee, or would you all work with, transportation? Or like, I can see how is that integrated in,
There were, yeah, there were you.
yeah, because I noticed, I'm not from Prince George's, I'm from Arlington, but just living here since 2019, I know to get to South PG to North PG through public transportation is very difficult. It's frustrating when you could take like a 10 or 20-minute drive, but to get there to the same location of public transportation, it'll take like an hour plus.
That's a very good question, and thank you for raising that. Just to kind of plug you in on that process, what it looks like for Prince George's County. I know I worked in, you know, other jurisdictions in the past, but more specifically Prince George's and Arlington too. I haven't worked there, but I know the process over there. But what it looks like is a part of what we call, you know, over this side is adequate public facilities when it comes to being able to provide infrastructure. And that includes transportation. What does that look like? In addition to that, we would do that analysis at a time of preliminary plan of subdivision or certificate of adequacy, which are pretty much about the same time. However, what we have going on right now, just to clarify here, it's a really, really important time, is we have our master plan of transportation under review. And that includes public transportation. Every aspect of transportation is being reviewed at this point in time. What improvements need to be made? What things need to be deleted out of the master plan of transportation, which don't fit for what we are looking for? We're looking at many modes. I think in 2009 was the last time we really updated that master plan of transportation. So we're looking at it right now. And at that time, we only looked at really just cars and moving people through cars. So at this point in time, what we're looking at is all modes of transportation. When it comes to air mobility, we're looking at water mobility, you name it, we got it as a part of this master plan of transportation, and it's under review. So you can go to, I think it's pgplanning.org/go Prince George's or something along those lines. If you go to our pgplanning.org website, you can go to, there's a link on there for Go Prince George's. Please go there and you can add in the comments that you have on what that looks like. In addition to that, as a part of that process, we're coordinating with all of the different transportation agencies throughout that impact Prince George's County. We're talking about obviously DPWT, the Department of Public Works and Transportation, the Maryland State Highway Administration, and there are many, 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 many agencies associated with them. And we're talking with everyone, with the federal government as well, with Metro. They're part of this conversation. We're also talking to the adjacent jurisdictions as well, because our connections to them are also critical to our citizens as well. So we incorporate that as a part of our review when it comes to the preliminary plan of subdivision process, as well as this update to our master plans that we do have. In addition to that, we have not only just the master plan of transportation, but all the different master plans that we have. We have an analysis of public transportation in there as well. So that is incorporating that process. So we have like many touch points with that in order to address that concern that's out there. So there's many options out there.
Is it out for public comment?
It's, right now, we have the draft on the website. You can review it right now. If you have comments, you can provide them. But here's the key here, and I want to make sure you're very clear. After the first joint public hearing, which is probably going to be around January, I promise the beginning, I'm not going to say exactly January, but the beginning of 2026. We're going to have that first joint public hearing. After that joint public hearing, that's when those comments really matter and have to go into the record. So at that point in time, be sure to send your comments then. If you don't do it now, do it then, because it gets into the record for sure. But take a look at that document. It's about a 300-page document, about that thick, about an inch thick. Take a look at it. It's very important. It's really nice. I will say great work by our team. And not only just the looks of the document, but everything that's been thought out. Because we coordinated with everybody on that document, and we're still getting comments. We're coordinating with all our municipalities, especially, you know, in Prince George's County, we have a total of 27 municipalities. We're coordinating with those folks to incorporate their comments in there as well. Okay. Any other comments, suggestions on? Oh, of course.
A question. What's the this part? This, what is that referring to? What could help to streamline this process? What's this?
The many different processes that we have. So if you look at this page right here, we have like many, these are just a few of the 40 processes that this entire department has to deal with on a daily basis. Our team, as a part of these different processes and procedures, there are regulatory requirements they have to ensure are found in compliance for that application before they can recommend approval of those. Okay, so as a part of that, we realize that there are concerns out there with how the length of time and the amount of information that has to be provided as a part of those individual processes. What are your ideas that you have that would help say, okay, we know the concern is to streamline or make things shorter, to get things faster, to keep things moving, because money is moving things, right? And we realize it's really very important to keep things going. What's your ideas that's going to help out with that? We're encountering different things. You know, are there any other encounters that you're having, let's say, with Montgomery County or Charles County or Anne Arundel or Fairfax, you know, Alexandria, Arlington, those other places that, you know, our folks are dealing with? Is there something that they're doing that could help, that we could utilize on this side to help streamline? I know from our team, we're looking at some things, but I want to get your ideas as well, what you have.
So what I found with processes, and when they're, to your point, a lot of different processes, is there some information that's applicable across the board? Like, is there information that you could plug and pull for permit and the same that you could use for zoning? You know what I mean? Like, is it repetitive? Is it some of the same information that is needed and that is necessary, you know, and if so, you could point people to say, okay, if you apply in this, for this particular, say, detailed site plan, section A, then that information could very well still be applicable if it's current, or at least go back and review it, and then that can stop people, that can, you know, make use of information. What I found is that always making use, you know, how can I repurpose information?
Yeah, absolutely. And what that is definitely a good suggestion there. What we're doing right now is we're implementing, and we'll have a further brown bag on that one as well, on our new DARTS program. It's a Development Activity Review Tracking System. Is that right? That's right. Okay. So as a part of that system, we are taking the information, let's say property information that's out, that you typically would find, let's say on PG Atlas, our website that we talked about before, and incorporating that base information into the application. So it's almost like it's pre-populating a lot of that information that's out there. Also gives the opportunity to kind of connect cases together. So if you have a preliminary plan subdivision, it will connect to, let's say, a detailed site plan. I think that's an option out there as well to that program. So it reduces how much information that has to be completed by the applicant at that point in time. So we have that kind of in play, and we're also taking it as part of the permit process, and we talked about this before, I think back in, I think it was February, March, brown bag, where we were talking about the connection between the permit process and our processes. Within the permit process, they have a program called Momentum. And so we're working on ensuring that connection between our DARTS program and Momentum through our PG Atlas program. Because what it is you all know, when it comes to a lot of this information, to your point, what's the common denominator? The property information, right? So that said, that a lot of that property information is found within our PG Atlas program. So we can kind of build that bridge between the two with with that program. So that's what we're working through right now to kind of help streamline as well, to baseline that information for everyone. So that definitely is a great point, and we're looking into that, like kind of furthering that too. So I appreciate that, definitely.
So I also wanted to ask, at what phase of planning will, affordability in terms of housing and even, the environmental impact of like structures or, yeah, I guess of structures, like what part of the process are those considered and implemented?
When it comes to environmental, it's pretty much all of it. Okay, every aspect when we're talking about, zoning, when you're identifying that, you know, someone wants to identify the zone to a property. We're talking about even master plans, when they're being, you know, master plans, sector plans, sub-region plans that are out there. We look at environmental impacts there. We're looking at it for rezoning applications, we're looking at it preliminary plan of subdivision. We're looking at detailed site plan, you name it, it's pretty much looked at permitting. We take a review at every point of each of those processes. We have a very serious environmental planning team, and they're definitely in the loop on everything when it comes to all the applications coming in. And I will say this, they do a very, very thorough analysis. It's just sometimes a fault of our own. We have an extensive portion of that staff report that we've developed that's devoted to environmental planning. I mean, what was the second part? The portion was was the housing affordability. When it comes to housing affordability, that's sometimes looked at if someone wants to rezone a property to a planned development. That may be looked at that point. We talked about planned developments for PDs. And those are opportunities for developers or property owners to redevelop their site with a different type of use or that's associated within the zoning ordinance for that zone that they're going for. In addition to that, as it relates to that housing affordability, they have to be able to provide some type of public benefit, and that could be looked at as a public benefit. So that's really the only time in the planning and zoning process to really dig into that housing affordability aspect. We promoted at that point in time if that's going to be definitely a public benefit, obviously. However, a lot of those conversations are had with the county executive's office, as well as with our housing team, with the Department of Housing and Community Development here at the county. They work through those detailed aspects for those projects coming in. So that's kind of where that pretty much lies, in our extent with those, with housing affordability.
To add on that, is there incentive, or would you all be a part of like giving incentive to property developers to make it a public benefit, like say for affordability?
So that's pretty much what that is. So that if they provide us and indicate that the housing, that there's going to be some type of housing affordability aspect with it, and we review that, that's going to be their public benefit to get that zoning and what they want to do on that property. So that's what they're utilizing as the tool that drives that zoning that they're proposing.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. I know we got some folks online. We gotta ask folks online.
There's just one comment,
Okay.
back to your initial, when you're asking the question. Just about being cautious of streamlining so much that you undermine meaningful public engagement.
Oh, that's very good, because you definitely have to take into account public engagement. You don't want to, take away the opportunity for somebody's, their constitutional rights to be heard. So to your point, that definitely is one of our main concerns and want to ensure that's incorporated in the process. So we definitely get that as a part of the process, and we're trying from our end, our recommendations aren't meant to really remove the citizens' input when it comes to a lot of these developments coming in. It's just trying to identify what are going to be the kind of like the triggers, what would require to go to public hearing. What are going to be some things that we can look at from an administrative standpoint, we can kind of usher cases through the process without having to go to public hearing, which may reduce the time frames as well. So we can kind of look at it, see what that looks like, and go from there. But I definitely appreciate that comment. And by any means, we do not want to take away the public's right to comment on a case and to be heard, because that is definitely not what we do. I am a big advocate of hearing from the public, and because the thing is that these developments are impacting them. They are the neighbors of these developments. It's in many instances, it may not be us. You know, we are in our offices here in Largo, and it may be someone who, you know, lives in Brandywine, and none of us here in the department may work in Brandywine. I'm just using that as an example, because I know we do, but just as an example. If someone, it makes no sense not to hear from the people, hear what they want to see in their development, or in the neighborhood, I should say. That's pretty much it. All right, well, I will say this, again, I appreciate everybody for showing up. Jill and Kojan, thank you so much for the great work and the great presentation, and my apologies for my tardiness. And also, I want to be able to promote real quick, I'm sorry, something real quick. We are going to have, just so you all know, we're going to have a session regarding new intake and regulatory review. We're going to put more information out, but we have a flyer out here. You probably can't see it on here, but I have a flyer out here that gives some more insight and detail on our intake and regulatory review division that was just approved through our FY or fiscal year 26 budget. The intent of this new division is to provide additional opportunities to streamline the process and look at different things. In addition to that, to tell our story, what we do. You know, on our website, we're going to put our performance metrics on our website. Trying to see where we are, how do we improve our performance, get information from the public on what that looks like, and to really promote ourselves and what we do here within the planning department. So, and to tell the story so because many instances they may not know, and it's not, for us, it's our opportunity to let them know what we're doing here and all that great work that we have going on here within the planning department. So, and all the work that we're doing for Prince George's here at the same time to improve the quality of life here. So thank you so much, everyone, for attending. Please stay tuned for our intake and regulatory review division brown bag we'll have coming up pretty soon. I believe the next one, next brown bag may be related to our new darts program, and that'll take place probably around September, but I believe that's going to be then anyway. Regardless, please stay tuned and get the inside emails when it comes to the new the brown bag session for September. Thank you all. I hope you have a great summer. We'll see you back then.